Hello guys, uh, can you hear me? I hope you should also be in a position to see my screen. Okay, Ahmed Farad, see, I've added a few lectures. There are two lectures on GSP. So they are very simple lectures, but they are from the English playlist. There is a single lecture on GSP in the Hindi playlist as well. If you want to go through that lecture, you can go through that lecture as well. But I feel the one with the English has got a better audio quality, so I did that one. So those two lectures are pretty simple. There's nothing big deal in that. You can just go through and you will have the same feel as like you have in a class because it's actually the class lecture only. So once you are done with JSP and the one lecture that I have added for JDBC is mostly the theoretical part plus some leftover part. So that also you have to cover because that is also part of the syllabus. Uh, and then there is the MVC lecture. There are two lectures for MVC, I think. Yeah, there are two lectures, I believe. So they are from the Hindi playlist. And why I added MVC is because MVC is not directly in your syllabus, but that lecture gives you a foundation to start with any of the frameworks which are based on MVC that you will come across in your career. So whether you want to learn struts, Spring MVC, or some other MVC based framework, even you if you want to learn a Microsoft based MVC uh, uh, based framework, then also the concept will remain intact. So this will be giving you a very good start point to understand those frameworks which are actually used in the real world applications. Today, no one is going to use a plain servlet GSP and JDBC as such in a new application. If there is an application which is being maintained and it's a very old application, then only the possibility is there that you are going to use these raw technologies. But these raw technologies are very important to understand because they build your foundation. So even from the last 10 years, if I see, Struts was there, Strut 1.x was there, and uh, rather last 15 years, I could say, Struts 1.x was there, and people have started MVC frameworks. So that is one reason, and the other reason is that those two sessions they give you a complete revision of whatever you have learned till JSP. It's right from the starting of the web application, from the servlet and everything, and that will be a revision point for you. So that is a kind of integration of all concepts that you have learned, as well as it also include one particular concept which is a part of your syllabus, that is how to transit from one dynamic component to another dynamic component. Like for example, if you have a servlet and you want to communicate or send the control or hand over the control to the other servlet or other GSP as such, because both are dynamic components. So there is a dispatcher. So you make use of the dispatcher to basically send the control. And when I say I want to send the control, I mean I want to actually have the another component to which I am sending the control, the request object, the response object, and everything that the request and the response object holds. That means request object also holds session, because when I say request dot get session, so that means session is a part of the request as well. So request also holds all the parameter. Request dot get parameter, you are basically habitual of calling this particular method. Similarly, response has also hold of uh, basically your output stream, print stream object that basically used to write. So say for example, servlet has already written one servlet has already written something in the output stream, and then it passes to another JSP page. You can add anything to the same output stream, the print stream, which is going to be sent back to the client. So then again, the context object and the config object and many other such things are there. They are also part of the request to the response, either request or the response. So basically, whatever is coming from the client side, that is the part of the request object, and whatever needs to be sent to the server, that is the part of the response object. So you pass the request and the response object using this mechanism that utilizes basically dispatcher class. So this is part of the syllabus, this particular 2 line of code that you will see over there. So that is part of the syllabus. So that is also explained over there. So in general, this lecture of MVC is very, very important to understand the whole picture putting together. So don't skip it. Go through it. That will be very beneficial for you. So with today's class, actually, we are going to wind up with the formal, syllabus, because the rest of the thing I've given you as an assignment with the lectures uploaded. And okay, Anuj, don't worry about the recording. I will upload the upgrade recording, because I have seen the recording that I used to do. So it's a problem with my, I think, microphone. The voice is not that clear. So I find that recording which is uploaded by the upgrade, that has a better audio quality. So I will share that recording. And then for one unit, that is EJB, I will give you a very small notes. So that note is going to be very precise, to the point, and that will suffice for your examination. So that is how we have to proceed. After today's class, if you need any kind of revision for a particular session as a group, then we can schedule that as and when required. So let us start with today's lecture. I hope everyone has studied the session, the recording that I've given for session management. Have you gone through it? Okay. So if you have understood the session management, then this today's lecture, that is managing the session using cookies, this is going to be a very easy thing for you to understand. So let's begin with. So what is a cookie? As you know, is I have told you in the lecture before this code discussion, that there are in general 3 ways how the information is managed or is stored. One is it is stored as a temporary memory object of the type of HTTP session, and that means as soon as the session times out that you have set, or when the browser window closes, it forgets the session ID, and that information is lost, right? The other way is that the particular information which you uh, as you have seen in the last class, you used to save in HTTP session object, and you have a different object for each client. The same information could be sent in the form of small bits of information, and these bits of information are called as cookies, and they could be sent to the client this time. So now this time, this information is not maintained in the server or on the server side, but rather maintained on the client side. And that information is maintained on the client side in such a way that those are stored in a form of file system. Somewhere the browser, it's a responsibility of the browser to basically store that piece of information in a encrypted, as encrypted information in the file system of your machine. So basically, you have to allow for the application to be able to use cookies. Otherwise, the application would not be in a position to save that information. So that is why when you see that, if you close your Gmail, for example, and if you open your Gmail from the same browser, not from other browser, from the same browser, some other day, you are already logged in. Why? Because your username and password is already saved in a file system, and when you open it, the browser basically reads this information and locks you directly without giving you trouble to log in and log out. But for that, you have to select that small option, keep me logged in, while you log in for the first time. So that indicates when you do this, the server basically passes the cookies to the client, that is the browser, and the browser saves it. So now this cookie information is something which is basically bits of information, individual bits of information. For example, in the session object, I saved every information as a key value pair in one session object in the memory on the server side. But here I am going to send those individual key value pair information, and I will say that information as one separate cookie. So if there are 10 such pairs of information, key value, uh, 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 key and value together, uh, piece of information. So they will be called they will be called as separate cookies, and that means if I have 10 such information, there will be 10 separate cookies, and these 10 separate cookies will be sent back to the client from within the response, that is being the part of the response itself. So whatever response you are sending, whether it be a HTML page or something else, that cookies, all those cookies will also be the part of that response, and the receive the client, of course, and then the client is going to pick out those cookies from the response, display the response, or interpret the HTML page which comes as a response to the user. But they will pick out the cookies and they will save it in the file system, of course with your permission. So if you do not give the permission to allow cookies in your machine, then that means that you are not basically allowing to function the application properly. In that case, the application should fall back to some other technique of session management. There are other techniques as well. So if you Google what are the techniques of session management in a Java-based application, you will see other techniques as well. So the server has to fall back to some other technique, or the server has to give you a message that okay, this application is not going to work properly for your machine because cookies are mandatory. So you must have heard that cookies are sometimes threats to your machine. Why? Because they are actually being saved. This piece of information are being actually saved in your machine, and that means the browsers have the permission to access your file system, your machine location, file system. So it depends upon the credibility of, yeah, they are encrypted, of course, Bharti, they are encrypted. So it's not like someone is going to read those piece of information or basically figure out what's there. So it's not that thing, but you have to trust your browser. Say for example, if I launch a browser the next day in the market and try to advertise it, that's a very good browser. It has some new features, and people started trusting me and download that browser. So I have the flexibility of basically using your file system. So nothing stops me from saving just this cookies, but I can save anything I like. Rather, I have access to your whole file system. So it's a trust thing. So you trust Chrome because it's a brand, right? You trust Microsoft Edge because it's coming from Microsoft, right? But there are lots of browsers there. If you search browsers for Windows, you will see a hell lot of browsers from. So it's up to you that what you are going to trust and what you are not going to trust. So that's the reason we call it a threat. Although it's very less likely that if you are going to use a standard browser, you will have any sort of problem with cookies, with the use of cookies. So let's start with uh, so cookies, something which are stored in the file system, and that means they are supposed to persist even you switch, even you close the browser. Okay, that particular browser, so they are available over there. So let's try to understand how cookies work with the code. So see, I have got a file test test HTML cookies .html. Basically, it's a copy of index.html that we have seen in the last class. Just that its form action is changed now. Form action points to hello form cookies. This is a separate servlet, okay, which is meant to manage the cookies. So this HTML has got just like the index.html file, it has got two input fields of type text. One has got the name first underscore name as in the previous case. The other has got the name as last underscore name, same as in the previous case in the index.html. And then it has got an input type submit with the value submit. That's it. So these are the two pieces of information, that is first name and the last name, that I want to basically save in the cookies, save in the form of cookies uh, to the client itself, that is to the browser. So first I'm filling the form, letting this information pass to the server, and let the server create the cookies for these two pieces of information. So server is going to create two cookies because these are two pieces of information, and then the server is going to send back these two cookies along with the response. So the response page it will create, which is going to ultimately print these values, and along with it, it will create cookies, two cookies, and it will associate those cookies with the response, and then it will send it back to the client. Now the client will automatically figure out the cookies, display the response page, HTML page, and it will pick out the cookies and save it wherever it likes, wherever it has got its designated folder to save. So every browser has got its own folder. So that is not directly visible. That is somewhere maybe within the installation folder of the browser application or somewhere else. It depends upon the browser. So and when the next time the client reaches out to the server, so I would not be required to use a HTML form. However, you can always use HTML form for that purpose, but this time I will not use the HTML form. Rather, I will simply use a servlet to hit. I will hit a servlet that is going to basically read the cookies information. So just like in the previous case with the session management, the client has the session ID and it sends the session ID to the server every time it communicates. In the same way, this time when I will hit this read cookies servlet directly without going through form, rather I will type the URL pattern of this cookies. This servlet, then the client, it will be on the client address bar that I will be typing. So the request is coming from the client. So this time, instead of session ID, the client is going to send me the cookies, not just the session ID. It will send me the cookies, those two pieces of information, the first name and the last name. So this read cookies class, this servlet is basically going to receive that piece of information in the form of request or from the request object, because they are coming as a part of the request object, and they will retrieve it, and they will generate a response page which is going to print those two values of the cookies. So it will tell I have received these cookies from the client and these are the values. So this is basically to demonstrate how to set a cookies, and then when the clients comes back, then how the servlet component on the server side can basically read those cookies values. So these are the two purpose of this small application. So let me just run it and show it for you, and so that you understand the behavior, and then we are going to see the code. So let me run on server. Next, session and cookies, finish. So let me go to some other browser, say Edge, for example. I want to go to Edge and just hold on. What is this? Okay. Here I will run this application. So actually this is what? This is index.html which has opened. But instead of index.html, index.html has got the URL pattern of helloform.java, which is meant for handling the session information. So we want this particular test HTML cookies, this resource to run. So let me copy its name. I will just copy its name, and then I will go there and I will type that resource name, which is uh, test HTML cookies.html. And now the page that you are seeing is actually the test HTML cookies. Of course, both the pages are same, but yeah, you can see the resource name is different. So let me say this time I say first name is Shah and the second name is Imran. Okay, and then let me press submit. You see the response that I got is setting cookies example. First name is Shah, last name is Imran. So this is the response page that I'm getting. But along with the response page, the server has, you have to assume that the server has also, see, which server has been hit is, you can see it in the address bar of the browser, this address bar of the browser. So hello form cookies, this particular servlet, this particular Java file, hello form cookies, this had been hit. So the control has gone to this particular servlet. So it has read those values, first underscore name is equal to Shah and last underscore name is equal to Imran. It has generated this particular response page where it has printed those two information, as well as it has also created those two cookies. We will see in the code how it has created those two cookies and added those cookies in the response itself. So when it has come to the client, as you can see over here, that is the browser. So the browser has interpreted the HTML response page, as well as you let me assume that the browser has also extracted those two cookies, which contains first name is equal to Shah and the last name is equal to Imran. Okay, those two information, and then it must have, this edge must have stored it somewhere in its memory. Okay, so in the file system. So let me do one thing. This time, let me just close this browser window, and then again I will open the browser window, because session information is lost with the closing of the browser window, but the cookie information should not be lost. So I am again going to you know type the address of till the context root of the application and then the resource. So this is the context root of the application, and then the resource that I will be calling this time is basically read cookies. Read cookies is the servlet which is basically going to read the cookies information which is sent by the client. So the client, that is the browser, already holds the information of the two cookies, which holds the value of the first name and the last name. Now, if I hit this cookie, this is the second time the browser is going to, send a request to the server, and that will be another request and response cycle. So in this case, this servlet will be hit, and this servlet will read the value which is coming as a part of that information, that is the cookies which is coming as a part of the request itself from the request object. So to hit this particular servlet directly without going through a form, what I can do is I can type the URL pattern, that is read read cookies. And you see, even though I have closed the browser and reopened the browser, the server has sent me a response page. It has generated me a response page, and that says found cookies with the name and value. So the name of the first cookie was first name underscore name, and the value was Shah. The name of the second cookie was last name, and the value was Imran. So the servlet, that is read cookies, the servlet which has got the URL pattern read cookies, this has basically fetched the cookies which are sent from the browser in the form of a request within the request object, and then it has extracted and then created a response page and embedded those information in the response page and send me this information as a response, so that as a proof that okay, the cookies are read. So I hope the behavior is understood, right? Any doubts so forth? Guys, any doubts till this point? Shall we proceed to the code? Please type in the chat box. Any doubts? Ahmed Faraz Reza, see, Ahmed Faraz, what happens is, uh, let me say that application has got 10 servlets, and out of those 10 servlets, there are 5 servlets which are sending back a new cookie information to the client, right? So every time the client is going to save those information, they are just the key value pair. So somewhere in the file system, they have a designated place, and that is saved encrypted over that file system. So those values were doesn't matter from which servlet they are coming, how many number of times they are coming. If they are different values, they are going to be saved every time. Okay. So if you go, you just Google one thing, how to find what cookies are stored in Edge, or what all cookies are stored in Chrome. You just Google it. So you will find the place, the that is where in the setting you have to go, and you can see the cookies. Uh, uh, of course, most of the time you will see it in encrypted format, but you can see the cookies. Just like you clear it, but you can even see the cookies as well. So within the browser itself, so you will see that there are lots of cookies. So not only just the login information, but in a shopping cart, along with the login information, you have got lot of the other things. So whatever you have shot for, so an application maintains a number of cookies for you. So it could be any request and response cycle with different dynamic components, whether be servlet or GSP. So any of them can send back a new cookie or a set of new cookies to the client, and the client can add on to it repository of the cookies in the file system. Yes, if the cookie is changed, that means if the cookie is the same cookie is being sent again with a new value, then of course it will have the new recent value, recent information, because the key is same but the value has changed, so it will overwrite it in that case. Any other doubts? Okay, so let's proceed to the code. So you have seen the code of test HTML cookies. This is simple form with two text fields. First underscore name and the last underscore name are the names actually being used for to refer these two fields. And the control, that means here we have got index.html, uh, index.html. Whether I type it or not, it doesn't matter, because this particular resource is in the default file list of welcome file list, in the default welcome file list. So this is automatically open. So index.html is something default, but when we need to run this test HTML cookies.html, we have to explicitly basically type it. So you have to basically, as in the example before, you will have to let me copy its name. You will have to basically type it here. So identically, because I've just copied that particular page, and the only thing that I have changed is just the action, the URL pattern in the action. So the action is now pointing to hello form cookies, which is going to read this information and create cookies. So let me go with this particular code, which is being hit by this page, and the code is pretty much simple. You can see it's after the imports, you have hello from cookies class which extends HTTP servlet. Then you have got the doGet method, and then this is the two lines which are going to create the cookies for the first and the last name. So you get first underscore name by request.get parameter. So what you do is cookie is an object, and this time you are creating a new cookie is a class, and this time you are going to create a new object of the cookie class to say one cookie, that is one piece of information. So you say cookie and you give it a name, first name in the form of camel case, because this is a Java reference variable, that is equal to new cookie, and within the constructor you are passing the key. Key is a string which is going to refer or refer to get this information back anytime I require. So this is the key, and the value is separated by a comma in the constructor. So this constructor has got two parameters. One is the key, the other is the value. So the key I have typed manually with, and I have chosen to give the same name as the name of the name that has been given in the form. I can choose any name. So let me say cookie one. I can say cookie one also. That will also be a valid name. So that doesn't matter. Okay. Then with comma separated, I say request.get parameter first underscore name. So this line basically retrieves the value of first underscore name, that is SHA, and it is going to replace this after this comma. The SHA is going to be replaced in the form of a string. So so the first cookie that is created has got a key, first underscore name, and the value is SHA. Similarly, there is another cookie that I am creating, another cookie object that I am creating, and it has got the key last underscore name, and then the value is I have typed Imran in the last name. So the value Imran will be replaced over here, which is fetched by calling request.get parameter last underscore name. Okay, so my two cookie objects are ready over here. Now I am going to set the expiry, just like session. For session we have a expiry time. We say that the session is going to expire in such and such time, and I've got both the methods. One is doing it declaratively, and one is by the code. So this time I'm showing you the example of how to do it through the code for cookies. So I'm setting up the timeout for the cookies, which is first sorry, yeah, the name of the cookie is first name. So on the same object, that is the cookie object, for this particular cookie I am setting max age 60 into 60 into 24. So that means 60 minutes, 60 seconds, and 24 hours. So for one day, I'm setting up this cookie. You can set it for any time you like. So last name dot set max age 60 into 60 into 24. Again, this is also for 24 hours. I can even change it, like for example 48. Sorry. In this case, the first cookie is going to live with the client for 24 hours, and the second cookie is going to live with the client for 48 hours. That is 2 days. So this is like I am sending the information. While I send the cookie to the client, that is the browser, I am also sending the information in the form of instruction that you need to expire this cookie, or you should not use this cookie after this particular period is over. So that will no longer be valid. So, and you can see that if we do it through program, that is programmatically writing the instructions for it, so I have the flexibility to have a different timeout period for individual cookies. So I can do that, or I can keep the consistency, and I can have the same timeout period as well. Then I told you, once the cookies are formed, so there are two cookie objects. One is referred by the first name, and the other is referred by the last name. These two variables, these two Java reference variables. So I need to add these two cookies to the response. So I will call response.addCookie method, and I will add first name, and then I will add response.addCookie method. I will call again, and I have added the last name. So both the cookies are added to the response header. They go as a part of the response header. So, and the response that you actually write over here, they go as a part of the response body. So then I am setting the response content. So response set content type is equal to text slash HTML. That is, I'm telling giving a hint to the browser that I am sending you something which is a text, and that has to be interpreted, because that's actually mean HTML file. And then I am getting the writer, which is an instance of print writer from the response object in the form of a reference variable out, which is being pointed by the reference variable out. And then I will use this out to basically type the whole of the HTML. It has got title, and then it is going to print a request.get parameter first name against the first name, and request.get parameter last underscore name against the last name. So this is what you have seen in the response, which is received back when the cookie was hit, right? So and that's it. The body is closed, the HTML is closed, and that's it. So when you hit this servlet through the text HTML cookies.html, you pass Shah and say Alam this time. So you get the same response. Setting cookie examples: first name is equal to Shah, last name is equal to Alam, right? So so as said earlier, the response has come to the browser. The browser has interpreted the response, as well as you will assume that the browser has also extracted those two cookies, those two pieces of information, and it must have saved it in the file system where it is designated to be saved by the browser. And when next time the browser communicate with the server, so it will not communicate as in the case earlier with the session ID, but rather it will communicate with the whole piece of information. Let there be n number of cookies, so it will send all those cookies back to the server. So server can use those cookies. So this time the server sends or rather hits uh, the server with a URL which directly meant for hitting the servlet. So read cookies is the URL pattern for it, and remove this HTML form. And as soon as I do that, the control goes to the root read cookies, and then in that case, let me show you the code of read cookies. Okay, it's here. The control comes to this particular server directly without involving a form in between. However, you can use a form as well if you like. So that's up to you. So this read cookies servlet has got a doGet method, and what it does, it create a array of cookies, and that initially pointing to null. That means this array of cookies doesn't point to any real cookies. So you can see, just like you can create a array of a string, you can create an array of a integer class, or you can create an array of say employee class. So the same way I have created an array of cookie class, because I am expecting that I may get one or more cookies. So that's why I want to hold it into an array. So when I call request dot get cookies, so not just cookie but cookies. See, just give attention that it's get cookies. So that means it is going to return me all the cookies, and when it will return me all the cookies, the return type is a cookie array. It's an array of cookie type. That is the reason why I have created this variable cookies, which is of the array type of cookie, and that is going to receive all those cookies in the array, and that means the cookie objects are going to be stored in this array of the type cookie. And then I'm setting this response type at text.html, because I'm going to generate the response page, which you have just now seen. This response page that you have found the cookies with name and values, and you have printed the name and the values of the cookies. So this response page I want to generate. So so to generate this, basically I'm using the rest of the code. So I've got the print writer instance. Then I am within the print writer, I am printing HTML, the head, and then the body. And then within the body, what I am doing is I have already received the cookies from the request because it has come from the client, so it has to be the part of the request. So I've received all the cookies as in a cookie array. So if cookies is not equal to null, that means I want to make sure that I won't get a null pointer exception. That means cookies are there and this array is still not pointing to a null object, because I'm going to call some method on on the cookies, like cookies.length. I'm going to call assess something on it, the variable length, for example, here. So I just make sure that it's not null. So if it is null, that means I have some cookies to figure out. So I print in the response page that I found cookies with the name and values that you have just seen in the response page. And then I start a loop for integer I is equal to 0, I less than cookies dot length, I plus plus. So you can also change this for loop with advanced for loop or a for each loop. And then for uh, each and every cookie object, I will use the instance of a cookie class to receive the element of the cookie arrays one by one. So this instance receives the first element, that is at the position 0, uh, uh, and then it will print name is equal to cookie dot get name. So get name method is the one which is going to return me the name, and that's this method is available in the cookie class. So I'm calling it on the instance variable cookie. So cookie dot get name is going to give me the name, and cookie dot get value is going to give me the value. So get name means first underscore name, and cookie dot value is going to return me Shah for the first cookie. Then the loop will iterate again. In that case, I will go for I is equal to 1, the second cookie, and that's the length is 2. So it will just the code is going to terminate after this. So again, I am fetching that particular cookie from the cookie array, and then this time I am printing name is equal to cookie dot get name, that is first underscore last underscore name, and then cookie dot value is equal to alam. So and this is going to be the, because these are being printed out dot print, so these are going to be the part of the response itself. So I am running a loop, and then whatever I am printing inside the response, not system dot out dot println, but out dot print or out dot println. This is the one I am using. So this is going to print it to the response itself. And then finally, if this if condition fails, that is cookie is not equal to null. If this is not true, that means cookie is equal to null. That means we don't have any cookie. So I will get the response as no cookie is found. For example, let me show you. If I just uh, hit this URL, uh, uh, this one, read cookies. If I hit this URL from a Chrome browser, which I have not used as of now, okay, so I'm going to a Chrome browser, and here I will hit the URL to read cookies, whereas I have not set any cookies from my application. So if I want to hit this, then I will get the information as no cookies found, right? Because cookies returned null in this case. So that's it, guys. That's how cookies work. It's plain and simple, very easy to understand. Any doubts regarding this? Any doubts? Okay, I can see something in the doubt section. Uh, Abdullah Muhammad Ali Khan is asking, sir, where is the cookie class whose object first name and the last name we are creating? Abdullah, you have understood it wrong. See, let me go back to the code, and you see, hello from cookies is the class where we are creating the cookies. So you see, this is a cookie class, right? This is the cookie class, which is which has a fully qualified name javax.servlet.htp.cookie. So this is the first cookie I am creating with a reference variable. Just like if I want to create animal A is equal to new animal, so A is the reference variable and animal is the type, that is the class. So cookie is the type, and first name in the camel case is the reference variable, and then I am calling the constructor of this cookie new cookie, and then I am passing the key as first underscore name in the form of a string, and the value as the as fetched by request.get parameter first underscore name, which is coming from the form. So this is how we form the cookie. So uh, so first name and the last name are not the object. I mean, they are the reference variable. They are the reference variable. So which we are creating, and here you can see the cookie class. This is the cookie class that I am using, and this is the constructor of the cookie class which is being invoked. Okay, so this is the part of Java X package, the servlet specification for HTTP. Then the other question is asked by Mohammad Aman. Sir, can a website access cookies saved by other website given that I am using the same browser? No, a website cannot access the cookies saved by other website, because the browser maintains the record. It maintains the record for each and every browser. I told you, if you Google how to access the cookies saved in Chrome in Google, it will show you by each application. So it will show you that Gmail has got these many cookies. Say for example, Amazon.in has got these many cookies, and so on. So whether it makes sense that you are going to understand those cookies because they are encrypted form, and you may not be able to understand what they contain actually every time. Sometimes you may get some hint what they are, but they are maintained separately for each and every application. So when the browser in the browser URL, when you start a browser with Amazon.in and then slash something, so only those cookies are sent by the browser which are saved in the section of that particular application. So browser is not going to misuse it this way by mixing things together with different applications. Okay. Any other doubts? Any questions? So guys, whatever video lectures that I have uploaded for you in your particular YouTube, let me show you once your YouTube channel and the particular uh, playlist for you, so that you don't have any confusion. Uh, Let me go to YouTube. Or just let me open it from here itself. So Java JE is the one, this particular YouTube channel you have to access. There is another YouTube channel also, but you have to access only this one. And then you can go to the playlist. So you will see three playlists. One is the Hindi playlist, one is the English playlist, and then the one which is playlist which is specifically meant for your batch, BTech CSC 6th semester temporary playlist. So you have to go to this playlist. So there are in total you have got I think how many videos? It's not showing here. So there are a lot of videos. I think 24 or 26 videos or 28 videos are there. So you can go through all the videos in the playlist. So these are the videos. Okay. 29 videos are there. Okay, 29 videos are there. Okay. So these videos are most of the videos are which are recorded for you during the live sessions. Some of the videos like lecture 2, 3, 4, these lectures of the Hindi sessions are the one which we have covered in the class. and then some lectures are for given as assignment, like servlet contest and servlet config. Some part of it was covered in the class and the rest was given as assignment. And then uh, one of the lecture for JDBC was also assignment that I have uploaded later. uh, so that was part of the Hindi playlist. So you have to, you got to figure it out, okay. And then to GSP sessions. One is introduction to GSP continued. This is a second lecture of GSP, and there is also a first lecture 16 introduction to GSP. 16 and 17. These two lectures are basically about GSP. So they are very simple. Uh, with servlet technology, I have not only make you understand the servlet technology, but everything that is related to a web application development. So GSP just is an extension of it, and rest of the part which are the foundation to understand it, that has already been covered. So all that you need to understand in the GSP lectures are the elements of the GSP, the syntax, how to use them, and that's it. What is the purpose of GSP and all those things. So the two lectures are self-sufficient to understand. If you have any problem, we can have the session again on any of the topics that you require. This is the lecture for JDBC that I have added, that basically contains the theoretical part, two-tier and the three-tier database design, driver types, and then something is callable, and uh, uh, scalable types of uh, some topics are there which are left over, which are discussed in this lecture. And then finally you have got two lecture for MVC. Mm, Lecture 13 MVC part 1, and then you have got lecture 13 again MVC part 2. So what I will do is I will try to organize this playlist in a sequential order, like lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3, lecture 4, so that you don't have a confusion over the dependency of the lectures. So I will try to organize today or tomorrow in that particular format, and then you can start. I will upload this particular today's lecture as well. Then you can go ahead with all those lectures which are uploaded. So uh, and in case you get into any difficulty in understanding those lectures, or you want to revision for any topic for the whole batches, I mean the two batches, then we can specifically go for it. But first, the rule is, as always, you have to interact among yourself, try to understand with communicating with among yourself. And in case you are not able to understand, then only we will revise the whole lecture. So is that okay, guys? So I'm going to end today's session. All the best, and whatever information I get regarding your assessment, maybe we will have to do a lab assessment and the theoretical assessment on Upgrad or somewhere, by uh, keep logging you one by one, and talking to you as well. So that could be one mode, or let's say what university suggests. So whatever the way university is going to suggest, we are going to do the assessment for internal and external. Uh, so we will have to wait for it. Uh, yeah, okay. Let me share the code. So this one and this one. So you got the code. uh, if you need the code in the mail, just request your CR and he will distribute in the mail as well. Mm, okay. So just okay, guys. You may log off now. Thank you very much. So keep in touch with me on WhatsApp. By Monday, I'm expecting your status that whatever you have covered, and if you have any difficulty, let me know. Okay, guys. Thank you very much.